give you a signal after the show. 2 minutes later.
Yes, so thank you for the opportunity. We, a bunch of people have already know me here. Even some of the guys who left South Africa last year there in the back. So I'm not talking tonight about the current business side. I'm operating. I'm literally just going to speak about my early years and the 2 businesses that I built up and sold, and the lessons learned from that, and a little bit of encouragement through that. So, reason why it's against the odds is we'll see it now. But one of the key things here is about the value of sex. So a little bit about me. I'm a father. I'm married to Francine. We love to travel. Family in Canada. Our family house in South Africa. We lived in Switzerland for a long time, and that's my family. We spent some time in Maldives just at the back end of COVID. So, family man, but try to kind of balance. And it's an important part, I think, of the story around that. Okay, so we'll jump straight into it. So, early years, I grew up in a little place called Three Rivers. So there were 3 little rivers coming together. My father was a preacher. And I was a preacher's kid, typical naughty, very naughty, but very, got a lot of attention from everybody around. It was a little community, everybody knew who you are, and I couldn't go anywhere without people calling my mom and dad and say, hey, do you know what I'm doing? So, so much so, you got a lot of self-confidence when you grow up like that. So when I was 7, the school called the first psychiatrist to come and see me. On my teacher's command, and say, listen, please, I was a little bit too much confidence in the class. I wanted me to skip a year. My parents said, no, just keep him in his life as normal as possible. My second psychology was in school, was my last year of school, when I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I did very well in school, luckily I was very blessed with that, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was always torn between what I was kind of shown from my dad's and his kind of, and I didn't want to have this 9 to 5 kind of life, and I was always kind of confused what to choose, and I knew I also didn't want to struggle like my father did and financially and so on, so I was always torn between this. What happened was that I couldn't afford to pay for university, so I was applying for some scholarships, and I got a full scholarship. Paid for everything for 3 years, from my first meal of the day, every book, computer allowance, everything. So I was like a full ride. And that shaped really the next 7 years of my life at that time. So very important, because at that time I wasn't studying something that I really had a passion for. So I studied mathematics and computer science and statistics. But I knew it was somewhere in between. And the reason for all of these things will become apparent. And as I finished my studies, I had to kind of go into work for this company. It's a large utility company. I had to go become a programmer. And I was really torn about this. And I tried to change my studies throughout. My parents said, no, just continue, just face this. And I was always looking to try and find that balance between what am I really passionate about, what are my strengths, and what are the opportunities. But somehow the opportunities that were put in front of me gave me some opportunities then to explore that. And I eventually found, after about 4 years of getting exposed to high-tech, leading-edge internet technologies and so on, I found a sweet spot which was really connecting kind of business people to technologies. That sweet spot of sitting in between, being that person that was able to translate between the technology, which is the difficult part, and the people that don't speak technology. And I find that a little bit of a sweet spot. And the interesting thing is that I had a customer, and that customer, I was a consultant. I was running a consulting team for an internet agency in Rosebank. And this customer, we had like a terrible customer, difficult one, and the company I worked for did a terrible job. Product wasn't ready, and I was trying to fix the thing. And this customer, the manager of this customer came to me and he said, listen, Ruan, why don't you start your own business? I said, why do you say that? And his assistant came in and she was like the chief operations officer, and she said, because you know how to deal with customers, you know how to connect with us, you understand our problems, and you can create value in it, but you don't need these other people to create the value, you can do it by yourself. And I realized, and at that point, I was standing still and like, okay, so if I can create value, then that's enough. You know, because if you create enough value, someone will buy it off you. Right? So that's what they think. I moved to the UK, fast forward, .com crashed, lost my job, and found an opportunity through some technicality to basically, I got like 4 or 5 months of salary. And my wife, and I said to my wife, listen, we can leave the UK, go back to SA, and we'll arrive back there. We saw the house, we saw everything, we can arrive back there with what we left with. So it'll be 6-7 months later, we'll arrive back, we would have seen a little bit of Europe, we saw rugby in Paris, we did this, we went to Ireland, we went to Scotland. We wouldn't go empty-handed, but we would have nothing more or nothing less. He said, what's your alternative? I said, well, I can start a business. And he said, do you think it'll work? I said, yes. I had no idea what I was talking about. I had no idea what I was talking about. I had this idea, but, you know, and then, but because of the 6 months prior to that, the people I worked with, they saw something in me that they felt that they wanted to invest in. They said, hey, we'll invest in your business. We don't know what you do, but we'll invest in your business. I said, okay. And then my ex-boss, he sold his company at the time, and he said to me, hey, I want to invest. And then two weeks later, he said, I don't want to invest, I want to come to a business partner. We'll go down into that. So the first business started. First business was this guy, and by choosing that partner, I was a technical guy at the time, doing some kind of that breached the sweet spot I was talking about. He was a salesman. He could sell, I mean, he'll sell, you know, sand to the Saudis, you know, that sort of how to sell guy. I mean, but the key things I learned from him is that even if there's no value, he will kind of think that he will sell something to you, but you wouldn't like it. But he would walk away there with a deal. He would negotiate with people, and he would walk away, and he would be proud that he just out-negotiated someone, but there's no long-lasting value there. So it was really difficult for me to be around that. But we had very complementary skills, so I learned a lot from him, and at that point I realized that it's very important that kind of partnership that you're looking for. You need to understand, in the first part of my early life, I needed to understand what my passion was, I needed to understand what my strengths are, I needed to look for the opportunities where I can develop that. Now I was thinking, okay, now I understand where my weaknesses are, now I need to find a way to complement that. Right, so when you start a business and so on, people think let's do it by himself. But really, really choose very carefully, because don't choose someone that's exactly like you, because then you're redundant, or you or the other person is redundant, right? So then I had no idea how to run a business. So I was just kind of jumping all in, every day, all in, working 7 days a week, then stopped going to church. I thought this is a sprint. You know, when you kind of like ready, steady, go. I was running flat out for a long time, and I got sick to the point that as soon as I take holiday, I'm sick for a week, because my adrenaline is so high the whole time that as soon as I go on holiday, my immune system just crashes. So it was very, very difficult to stay there. And I forgot, and I had some kids who were born at the time, and you lose sight of why you're doing it. So you lost a little sight of why you're doing it. So I thought it was about the goal, because we had this goal of creating a multi-million pound business in the UK. But it wasn't just about that. So I can tell you those 3 years, 4 years that I had that business, I can tell you very little about that journey. Because I don't remember, because it's like you're running through kind of beautiful gardens, and you kind of see nothing next to it. You just kind of keep your eye on the prize, and it was extremely damaging. But it's very important that the journey becomes as important as the goal. because the goal could be ever elusive, but also the journey is very, very fulfilling. And my wife always reminds me, because we watched many West End shows in the UK. My wife would force me, say, listen, we're going out, we're meeting friends, you know what friends are, remember what friends are? Go, and then I would be sitting in Les Miserables, the West End show. I think I last about 15 minutes, and I would fall asleep. I was so tired. And my wife would wake me up, get annoyed. Hey, you must know all things. It's a great opportunity to sleep. But the thing was really, really important that I didn't at that point in time find meaning in the journey. And a lot of other things there was, which led to me to kind of actually selling the business well before we had to, because we were running out of steam, no stamina. Other thing there we had was we were very, very, it wasn't confusing, we were confused about the fact that sales means business and business health. So we didn't operate the business on cash flow, which is really, really a difficult and a painful thing. That was the only time I've made that mistake, because we were sitting there and we were basically 5 people in the company, and this guy wanted to just hire people. We hired people, 3, 4 people, and we looked at our bank account and was like, we can pay 2 people for the next 2 months, and then we're running out of money. Yes, we will have money coming in in about 2, 3 months time from now. And I had to watch a guy who just got married walk away. I was sitting in my office here, the window was here, and the parking lot, his car was there, and I watched the guy walking to his car after we let him go. And I saw, and I put myself in his shoes at that time, thinking to myself, never again will I hire irresponsibly because of my greed or my lack of awareness around if I can actually help you, because that employment is not for me. That employment should be something where we create value for both people. So if you cannot hire someone where you have the opportunity to create value for both people, you shouldn't do it. If you hire people to create value for you, it won't last. So at that point I made the decision. And since then, in my second business, I never had to get rid of anybody again because of that, because of the fact a little bit more conservative, a little bit more aware of what's responsible in that sense. So another mistake made, and we'll jump into the next thing, is the funnel to customer success. Everybody knows what marketing, we've got a lot of marketeers in here, right? Everybody knows what a funnel is, marketing funnel, right? Very common mistake we make, and I'm sure no one else makes this mistake, so let's just cover it. So is that as soon as you're in a small business, and what we found is that you go, you market, you chase after the deal, you progress the deal, you negotiate the deal, you land the deal, you celebrate, and then you start delivering the deal. Okay? And now, what happens is that you neglect all the things that you've done in the last 6 months to create the business, to take care of the new business. So at that time, I started realizing that consistent kind of activity of creating a funnel, creating business, even if we have business coming up, even if the business is going to be closing down, we're not responsible by actually filling that funnel. And we started to realize, this is the first time I really started realizing when we landed the business, and we were lucky enough to be at an incredibly large project we won. Within 3 months we started the business, we won a £1 million deal with Allianz Insurance, which was incredible. It was lucky, blessed, all of those things. But when we look back, there was nothing. We had nothing. Nothing in the sales funnel. It took us another year to land another customer. But this is when you realize that the customer life cycle starts from when someone is a prospective lead to when you close the deal, to when you start delivering, and until you can keep the customer happy. Because even if the customer is not spending money on you, that's the person still your customer, and then turning that customer success into repeat business is extremely important. So those are some of the things Anybody questions, comments? You want to make a, do people recognize, oh, I'm sure people recognize it, right? I see, okay, good. So, and you can see, business one, it says, you don't know what you don't know. Right, so this is very clear for me when my wife said, are we going to work? Is this going to work? I said, absolutely. I had no idea what I was talking about. And as you go on, you start to know what you don't know, and that's what happened. So to transition from this to the next, so because of point two, I got some health problems. I saw a cardiologist. The guy said to me, if you want to see 35, you need to make a change, right? I said, okay, so I got cutting down and I decided to move to Switzerland. This is where the idea of peak traffic was when the sheep changes from this field to the other side of the field and you have to wait 5 minutes for them to change. And that's when I started in the second business. A much better lifestyle, balanced business from that sense of view. So at that point in time, now I knew partner, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, so I was really already aware that I cannot do everything. I cannot run after everything, so I was very intentional about hiring people that are more clever than me. And that's not hard, but you have to kind of put your pride in your pocket and say, hey, you're going to hire someone, and sometimes it took a long time. I was traveling, sitting in Munich, and I'm like, boom. I mean, hiring my CFO, COO took me about 6 months. I didn't have a CFO for 6 months because I really felt it was very important that making sure you hire the right person for that job. And that person stayed with me until the end, and he helped me to grow the business to a very nice business, and he was instrumental. And the way he would describe his job was, he said, people, we always go to meetings together and so on. And I said, hi, I'm Ruan, I'm the CEO, and he says, hi, I'm Micha. My responsibility is everything that Ruan doesn't want to do, I do. And that's what happened. So, yeah, so at this stage I also felt very strongly about the cash flow, and so I made sure that I wanted to capitalize the business as well. I didn't want to go in again, so I had a specific aim to have cash flow in the business for 6 to 12 months. And when I got to 12 months, I never went under it again. Now, the story here is, and this is a little bit of part of the testimony, is that in the first year I did this, first few months was pretty okay, it was good. The next 6 to 9 months was horrible. And I was questioning everything. I was like, this is bad. I was 280,000 euros behind my budget. I was in a hole, 280,000 euros, starting to hire people, and we started to get interest in the business, but I had to hire people to also to get that. And there's no, sounds like a little contradictory to what I said before, but I was watching this Christian movie, and really felt like God spoke to me and said, listen, what? I need you to prepare for the harvest. There's nothing there. Like, I'm looking at the fields, but there's nothing I can see. I'm 270,000 euros. I was in the hole. And very clearly, God also indicated to me, said, listen, I want you to have faith in me. I don't want you to rely on your own financial security. But I'm going to bless you, but I'm going to bless you just enough. But I'm going to bless you so you can bless other people. So, and since then, I was, okay. And at that point in time, I was sitting in a train in Germany, and I just, you know when you sometimes feel you just totally surrender. You totally just give everything and you say, this is not in my control anymore. And I I had no control at that point anymore. And I surrendered. And I felt an incredible amount of relief and release that was just like a big, huge weight off my shoulders. A week later, I closed about 10 deals worth 280,000 euros. Okay. And then, so I had a little bit extra, and then an old colleague of mine called me and said, right, hey, I've got this friend, they've got a kid, she needs a very urgent operation, it's going to cost us 10,000 to do this, can you help with this thing? I said, well, who's yeah, how do you know? Yeah, this is what I have. And in obedience, I did that. And since that day, which is 1 year into the new business, I was not once again ever worried about the business, not a single day for 8 years, worried about the business, and I was not, we were profitable or cash flow positive every single month of the business. It was an incredible, incredible blessing. It was just surrendering what we have. But, I mean, I wasn't sitting back and watching Netflix. But it takes more than that. So, capitalize well. I absolutely wanted to hire people that are right for the business. I specifically didn't hire people that were qualified specifically. I hired people that were suitable. I wanted to hire nice people. I wanted to hire people that can communicate, that were hardworking, that I saw something in, that I saw had the ability to learn, that had an attitude to say, hey, I want to be part of your success story. And those are the people I hired. And there's about, on my phone now, I've got 35 of my ex-employees that we speak on a daily basis, one or two of them, or we can still send each other messages. And this is a company I sold 6 years ago, with people that we've built a long connection with because of what we do. And when we believe in people, we believe in employees, and we help them to grow their own potential, and we give them an opportunity to grow and to be successful and to share in their success, it's an incredibly powerful thing, because that also is when we get to significance. So, what happens is, in terms of thinking about the journey and the goal again, right? If the second business's goal was to, again, get to a 10 million turnover business, grow to 50 people, you would kind of think it's a one-dimensional goal to have. But for me, the significance of this business was today in the people that we developed over that time, the people that were part of something that lasts longer than money. Some of those people are today very senior people in Microsoft in Germany. Some of these people have their own businesses now, and one lady went to my wife's charity retreat, and it came out that when we just hired her at the right time, she was about to end her own life at that time, and we had the ability to say, hey, let's pick this thing up and move it. So the key thing here is, in terms of business lesson, is that success and significance, is you need to define what success is for you. So these are some of the people. So this is my team in Barcelona, where we spend Christmas, instead of buying Christmas gifts, we buy sleeping bags for homeless people, and we go and deliver them. A lot of fun. These people I saw like 3 months ago. When I left him, he wasn't married. He's now married. He's got 3 kids. The guy in the middle, you can see he's very tired. And what we did every year, we did a team building session, and people lived for this. I spent a lot of money hiring the biggest house I can find in Europe, which is typically in Barcelona area and so on, where we can accommodate 40 people, and for 3, 4, 5 days, we have 2 mornings of those days where we have company meetings. The rest of the time we just connect with, and it's because we were very, very distributed as an organization. But people there valued this, and a lot of people that left, they said that one of the most highlights on the year for them was when we value them enough that we don't care that they are billable as consultants and so on, that we care enough about them that we can take them on a holiday and we connect to each other and so on. So we would, in the evenings, we would go and swim on that beach in Barcelona, and we started very, very small. And the one picture in the middle is the guy on the right is the guy in the company who bought me. The guy in the middle is Micha, my right-hand man, and me. And then I took them. You see the restaurant there, Al Salad de Roca. It's a 1-year waiting list for this restaurant in Spain. A year before that, I said to the guy in the middle, my second-hand charge, I said, listen, we're going to sell a company in the next year, and when we do, I'll bring you here. And then and we did that. Quite an interesting experience to do, but we need to kind of see how we share and create value for other people in the business. Okay, so now after I saw the second business, I thought, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of time off. I worked a little bit for a company. I was a little bit too honest about some things that were not going well. When you're advisor to the CEO of a global company, then you need to probably be a little bit more diplomatic. And I was. He was from California. He didn't like that. But the thing is, I thought retirement was like an objective, like a goal, right? So who knows this fisherman story about the retirement? Anybody knows? No. So I mean, very quickly. So there's this guy, so like very let's say it's a business graduate, like an entrepreneur. He goes to this nice village. Let's say he goes here to a little surfer village here in Portugal. He comes here and he sees there's a guy runs a really nice operation. He's got this really nice kind of fishing boat, very efficient and well. And he says, "Oh, what are you doing about supply fish?" And he says, "Oh yeah, brilliant fish. This is it looks like you do really well." He says, "Why don't you create another boat?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, you can get another boat. You can run the water. Why do you do that? Why don't you do that?" And the guy says, "Well, why would I?" And the guy said, "No, but if you do that, then you can maybe get later a trailer, get a bigger one, and then you can maybe start opening, it's applied to the wholesale, and then you can start." He said, "Why do this?" He said, "So you can retire." He said, "To do what?" He says, "So you can do what you love." He says, "Well, I'm doing what I love." So going full circle, like sometimes we think that getting to the point of financial independence or someone is a goal for us, but when you have a lack of balance, which I have, right? You start creating an obsession with rest and retirement because you think you deserve it, right? So, and this is the thing, but when you actually get that balance, it really removes that obsession or that urgency to feel like, okay, I need to have that status. So it's really pursuing something then of purpose and significance. When you do that, is when you can continue and you do what you love and you know what you're doing is meaningful and you know what you're doing in purpose, therefore you can continue doing it. So therefore, find that. Find your passion, make sure that you understand what your strengths are, look for the right opportunities, and then do something that you have that's significant, because then you will not have this, which I had for a very long time. And I only realized it when I was retired. Right? And I was like, this is terrible. The most boring time I've had in my life. So now I'm doing another business, and I'll talk about that later, not tonight. But I had to redefine for me what success is. I had to redefine for me what significance is. And significance is, for me, is also part of that journey. So make sure that you don't ignore the journey that you're on the way to your goals. But there's no such thing as a single goal in business. You will continually kind of have multiple goals, whether it's personal or professional goals. But those are the main items. So another quick one is that we've got a little chapel on our property here in Olay, and we've painted that onto the chapel as well to kind of remind us that is the thing that we need to pursue, seeking God's kingdom first. When we left the UK, the pastor there, I think he thought we were a little bit hasty, and he said, "Ruan, just your wife is like leading worship, and you're on this kind of thing in committee here. We just put you on a leadership course. Now you're going to Switzerland. Just make sure that Matthew 6:33, you seek God's kingdom first." I said, "Yes, Pastor Philip. I'll do that." Honestly, I was thinking to myself, why does he judge me? How does he know what my motive is? But he knew that I was either running from something or I was running towards something, but I wasn't seeking God's kingdom first. And I kid you not, you can ask my wife, this happened. The day we walked into this new little church, which is like a little All Saints church in a little place called Ruan, where next day's head offices are, right next to beautiful Lake Geneva, overlooking this thing, amazing. We stepped into the, I said, I'm not sure about this. And then there, the pastor, was also an Irish pastor, blind. He's got a lot less hair than Mark. He's got no hair. But he came and he said, today we're going to speak about Matthew 6:33, seeking God's kingdom. And that was the two things that were connecting to us, which is really a validation for us to do that. So, so I want to encourage you to consider that as well. Okay. I think that's time for coffee. Any questions or comments? Yes.
I have two questions. First, what exactly was the service-based business that you were running?
It was a software distribution and consulting business. Yeah.
Okay, so mostly service-based. So when you say 12-month cash, it's mostly payable, I guess.
Yeah. So it was because we didn't develop the product. We didn't have the product development cost, but we had most of our budget goes on marketing and sales.
Okay.
And not consulting. So about 70% of our revenue was product related. So, and we had to make sure the customers are happy. So we had to invest a lot in customer success, which is not new business, which is just keeping the customer happy so that the customers can go through that. But on the services business, it's hard. The services business actually helped us to basically get us through the kind of highs and lows when the software kind of started going. When the economy turns a little bit low, people stop buying product. But people start buying more service. So it's always good to have that kind of mix. But for me, I will never be able to just have a business where I sell my hours, because for me that is not economically a very good, sound business, in the sense that in IT that's not good, because you have a lot of risk in your projects. If you're a lawyer, sure, you can sell your 50 minutes that you have, right? Or an accountant, you can do that. And IT is very different. There's a different perception how people value that. So for me, it's very hard to drive, unless you have a specific skill or a product that has a very high profitability on their services. That's why I love product-based businesses, because I can sell as much. I mean, the biggest deal I sold in my time is one of my first business. I sold the business with the deal about to close, but this is one of the reasons why it brought me, is I sold £10 million worth of software to the Ministry of Defence in the UK. So can you imagine how much hours I have to sell to get that? So product-based businesses are really good because it's not limited to my time. You know, so it creates a multiplier. So a lot of people I would say is like, listen, just if you can.
How did you feel about the process when you sold the business? I've heard some entrepreneurs describe it as like a close family bereavement. You know, 1 minute it's your baby, you're in charge of everything, the next day suddenly you're yesterday's paper.
So the first one I was very relieved, because I wanted to get away from the business partner. I was really, really happy, and the new business offered me a great position. I was running the MEA business. I was very happy about it. The second business, it was a bit of a bereavement. I mourned the business and I mourned the people. I mean, we had this with like 40 of the people on my last day. Everybody all cried. And but it was hard. And now I'm thinking back on things I should never have sold the business. And so, but in that negotiation process, it was very lonely, because I was the only one that owned the business, the second one. And I was the only one that was negotiating it, but luckily I had my right hand man, which I could deal with, and we went through the whole thing together. But made some mistakes in how I sold the business as well. One of the key things for me in selling a business is really to protect yourself against the downside and make sure that the upside takes care of itself. There's many different things around that you can read into it, but when you sell the business, you need to understand that you need to secure some of the value for yourself. And especially with software businesses that wants to list and so on, they sell you on future hope, future value, all of these things. But you, as a business, you always need to try and kind of hedge yourself, not hedge, but create a bottom for you where you want to kind of protect yourself against the downside, make sure that you never fall below this value, and then you can go there. Okay.
Anyway, thank you very much.